Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and if you haven't guessed already, we've got a couple of Makita radios to look at. Now, this one here, we've already actually seen this one. This is one from a previous Makita repair video which has come back to me. They do. Basically, these radios lead a very, very, very hard life. They are building site radios, and these belong to bricklayers. And obviously, they're out in all weathers, all conditions. They get a hammering. I've been told they're both dead. Basically, they don't do anything. Don't switch on or anything. So what I thought we'd do in this video is see if we can get these playing again and get them back to the bricklayers. Right, I think what we'll do, we'll start on this one because this is the one that we worked on previously, and then we'll have a look at this one. This one might be some fun because this one's not in a good condition, but we'll see if we can get it see if we can get it going again anyway. So I'll move that one out of the way. As you can see, it's pretty beaten up, its handle's missing, the clip off there's missing, the back is, yeah, this one's in a mess, but we'll see what we can do with it anyway. So we'll get that one out of the way. Like I said, this is the one that we worked on previously. Let's put a battery in it and see exactly what it is doing. Like I said, the report I had was it's dead, it won't play. I've got a good charged 14.4 volt battery here. So let's, oh, alright, well, perhaps it's not as dead as I was told. Right. Right, so it is getting power. But it doesn't seem to want to do anything. Now that could be pretty bad with these. They do, obviously, because it's reasonably modern, use like a little microprocessor inside them, and I have had these before where that's died, and basically the radio scrap its apart, it's radio then. So we'll go. I don't think that's the case in this because the clock set works. So I think the actual main logic inside is probably still working. I'm hoping actually it's going to be something fairly simple, like in fact that switch doesn't feel good. It could be as simple as just a bad contact switch. I've already had to change a few switches in this particular one. In fact, you can tell that's a switch I've changed in the past. In fact, that's a switch I've changed in the past as well. So we could get away and be lucky with, you see, I think the logic in there seems to be working because like the alarm clock and everything's working on it. It's just it's not powering up or anything. Right, so let's get it apart. You've seen me take one of these things apart, so I won't bore you with that. I'll get this thing apart and then we'll come back when it's in pieces and we can have a look and see if we can figure out what's wrong with it. So back in. Right, okay, we're in. Basically, I've tried to keep this all connected back up so it should make diagnosis of this easier. First thing, let's get this board loose. I haven't got a battery in it at the moment, so we're not going to short anything. We can put a battery in if we need to, or indeed use the bench supply. Well, let's get this board out, and that should get us down to the board, which I think is where the problem lies. Right, that should have us free. There we go. We can pull that out of the way. Now here is our switches. I have a feeling, let's find out which one it is we're dealing with. That's this sleep switch, is the one furthest over there. Now I have a feeling that switch there, which is basically that contact down there, is probably gone faulty. Let's get the tester. help if I switch it on. Get that round to an audio. Right, so if I go across the switch, this is going to be a little bit tricky to do. I want to basically get on the back of the switch and I want to get the probes, one on that contact, one on that contact. Yeah, that switch is dead. Nothing there. So, if that's correct, if I put a battery back in this, let's make sure that we're not going to short anything doing this. But I think we're fairly safe there. Basically, if I put a battery in now, so there we go, we are as we were. But then I take something metal and I short that switch out. Which is easier said than done. There we go. The radio comes on. See
I wanna start a fight. Na 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 na. I wanna start a fight.
Obviously we can't switch it off. I'll turn that off before I get a copyright strike. But yeah, so that's all the fault is on this one. We've got a bad switch on there. Let me go and hunt out a new switch. We'll get a new switch in that one, get this one back together, and we can have a look at the other one. So let me see if I can find a switch for this and we'll be right back. Right, okay, I've found a good replacement switch there. It's just off an old scrap TV panel. But it's a good one, so we can stick that in there. Let's get the old one out. I've already taken the screws off from that board, so can pop the board out, but it might be easier actually just to desolder the old one while it's sat down like this. So something simple like this, you don't need any fancy tools, just a manual desolder sucker. In fact, you could even cut that old switch off, just desolder the pins if you didn't if you just had a soldering iron to do this with. You could do it that way. You could take some snips or something and snip the old one off, then pull the pins out and get the old one out that way, to be honest. I've got all the tools so I can do it this way. Let's get that board. Oh, I'm missing a screw there. I've left one screw in. Let's get that screw out there. And we know this is the fault because we bypassed the switch before and we got the unit to fire up doing that. So what's holding you now? Oh, that's what's holding you, the bloody volume control on the front. Take that off and then you've got to unscrew the nut as well. Where's my spare? That should fit it. Forgot about that on this one. There we go. Take that off. And we should be able to lift the board out now. There we are. Out you come. Assuming we've already loosened that switch, we should just be able to pull that old switch off. There we are. Come on, out you come. There we are. So that's the old switch. Get the new one. Pop him in. And this is what, you know, with these radios, unless you have something catastrophic fail like I said, the IC under there, 9 times out of 10 it's switches, or it's like I said, like if you watch the other video I did on this particular radio, if you look through my Makita radio repairs, I think there's a couple on the channel, the DC input jack there is also an issue on these. I also had to do this last time I had to do that last time I repaired this one. Right, there we go, that's simple as that. That's that switch replaced. That should be alright, I'll leave that on because we might need that in a minute. What I will do, I will put the radio back together now. Well, I'll put it back together enough that we can do some testing, and then we'll have a quick test, and then I can do some final assembly on it. So back in a sec. Right, okay, we're back enough together to actually test. So I've not got that board fully screwed down. I've just got a couple of screws in. I've got all the rest of it back together. I'll unplug that from there, haven't I? Let's plug that back in there. I just unplugged these because it was easier to move it round. Okay, so far so good. So we're basically back to where we are, but if we press, there we go. Volume works. It's scanning the radio. Oops. Yep, that's working. Right, I'll get this back together fully and we'll do one quick final test, and then we'll get back onto the other one. So back in a sec. Right, okay, we're all back together. Like I said, this one physically is actually not in too bad a condition compared with how some of these things end up. It's even got both its handles and everything still on it. So let's give it a try. Power up. There we go. That's fine. I don't know what he's got his presets set to, but they work. To be honest, what most people do is they'll just scan it, send it to a station, and then just leave it. So that's happy. I'm happy with that one. Right. So that one can go back to its owner. Let's take a look at the other one. That one is a Makita MBR102. So these are older Makitas as well. They're not DAB or anything. They're FM, AM, FM only. But most builders, all most builders want is something that'll tune to, you know, one of the local stations, one of the FM stations, and play music while they lay bricks. So that's absolutely fine. Right, so that one's done. Let's have a look at the other one. Now this one, this poor thing, this has been in the wars. I believe this is a slightly different model. What have we got here? This is an MBR100. I believe this was the original one. I think this is the same one as I've got, because I have one of these myself. And this one, like I said, has seriously been in the wars. That's not meant to come off like that. I mean, the hinge is completely broken off there. The thing that's meant to hold for the battery there, unless it's slightly, no, because mine has the metal bracket on it, that's missing completely by the look of it. It used to, can't even see where it used to be, unless it clipped in there somewhere. But anyway, let's put that to one side. Let's grab a battery. Right, which way round are we? With that way round, aren't we? I mean, the battery will at least go in. That's, no, sorry, it's that way round, isn't it? Yeah, that way round. And this one is completely dead. No signs of life at all. I have not personally worked on this one before. My friend that dropped that one off, this belongs to one of his colleagues, and he said I'd have a look at it for him. So let's crack inside it and let's have a look what it could possibly be. Hopefully it's going to be one of the standard faults on these things, which when you get a complete no power fault like that, 9 times out of 10 it's that DC input jack there, and there's a little bodge we can do to get around that, but we'll crack inside it first. Let's get the bolts out. I actually don't think there's going to be much difference taking this apart to my other one, but I'll do it on camera anyway. One thing is, what we will check though, I can't hear anything rattling about. It's lost one of its handles. Now, if you're not careful, you can kill one of these by having one of them handles come off and leaving the little screws rattling around inside. I've actually got a DAB one over there that we looked at in a previous video, and that was completely killed by the fact that that handle had come off, the screws were rattling around inside, and they shorted on the main board, and they did so much damage it's basically irreparable. So that's just a part set now. But let us see if there's any chance. I can't hear anything rattling around, so I wonder if they've been taken out already. Oh, hang on, yeah, there's a couple more screws, isn't there? There's a screw there and a screw there. Those are missing off the one that I've just repaired because the standoffs inside are broken. So these radios really do have, I mean, they're designed for this kind of use, and even so they still have one hell of a hard life. Just catching that screw there. Ugh, that screwdriver's going to be a bit short, I think. I'll get it with that one. Yeah. There we are. We're in. Ooh, this is dirty and dusty inside. Alright, let's get this crack around and let's have a look. Not terrible inside. No, I don't think anyone's actually worked on this before, by the simple fact it's still got all its cable ties holding all the cables together inside, so let's just do something about them, then we can actually get in and work on it. And generally speaking, don't bother replacing them because they don't do that much, apart from make it difficult to come on, service. And I think I picked up the worst pair of cutters that I own. There we are, it's off. Right, now let's have a look here. I am wondering, in fact I'm going to go for my favourite port of call on these, which is that board down there. Now what we'll do, if I disconnect that there, I can put the battery in and we can see whether we get 14 volts on there. If we get 14 volts on there, there's a very good chance the fault is with that little board there. That is probably the most common, apart from the switches, that is probably the most common fault that I come across on these Makita radios. And that goes for all of them, whether it's one of these very early ones or the latest DAB. If it's got a little DC input jack on the front there, and it's getting absolutely no power, that's generally speaking the first place to go and have a look. Right, let's get the battery. Let's make sure we get the battery in the right way, which is that way. Obviously we're not going to have anything, but if we get 14 volts DC on there, we know that all that side of it's good, and our fault is here or further down in the radio. So let's stick that probe in there, stick that probe in there. 15 volts, yeah. So we know that the battery connection, everything's alright in that side there. So our fault is either going to be on that board there, or it's further into the radio on that side there. Right, let's get that board out and let's have a look at that first. Get you zoomed down a little bit. There we go. And get you in a little bit like that. Ooh, there we are. They do glue these boards in, which is a bit of a pain as well. because it can be a bit of fun to get back out, but we need to get that out to see whether that is the, well, I'm pretty certain this is going to be the issue because it always is on these. There we are. Right, yeah, basically what happens is that because it's open, it has a little rubber flap on it and the flaps break off and they never clip on very well. Moisture gets in there, it corrodes it, and there's actually a switch contact inside that, which is basically when you put the DC in there, it stops, it cuts off the power from the battery, and that little contact in there basically goes, so you don't get continuity through. So what I generally speaking do is just bypass it, I just bridge it out. So what we will do, let's just make sure we're on the right ones. I believe it is, let's plug this in to make sure we're right. Yeah, it's on the neutral side, sorry, on the negative side. We're in DC here, not AC. So what we do is basically just put a little bridge. Let me get you zoomed in. I mean, you could put a new, if you really wanted to use the DC input on the front there, actually you could still use it, you just have to make sure you didn't have a battery inside, or else you try and charge the battery. Because like I said, all it does is when you plug it in there, it powers the radio up and it disconnects the power from the battery. If we put a little bridge, let's see if you can see that. If we put a little bridge across those two contacts there, basically we just take that switch out of circuit, we connect the neutral, the negative, sorry, all the way through, so it's always connected. You can plug a power lead in there and it'll work, you can put a battery in, it'll work, just don't put both in at once. That's basically all it is. You could actually even put a reverse diode in the lead. You could put a protection diode if you wanted in that lead, and that'd do the same thing basically. I've never bothered because people aren't that much of an idiot. If I tell somebody either use it off a power supply or use it off the battery, they do. To be honest, I've never known really anyone use that adapter there. They always just power them off a drill battery. So we'll take a piece of just a piece of component leg off my bench, that's all we need. I'll double it over so it's got a bit more capacity to it. And we're just going to solder that basically across those 2 points there, because I'm pretty sure that is what the fault is. In fact, let's just double check it. It was put my meter on, put that onto continuity. We should have, with nothing plugged in there, we should have continuity between those 2 points. So if I go on there, oh, and we have got, oh dear, so that's not the problem. So that's right. Right, so we might have more wrong here. What's that diode there? That is a reverse protection diode, isn't it? This might be very slightly different to the other one, and that's full of crud and corrosion and plaster. Right, let's make sure we've got our ground going through to where we want our ground to go through to. So if I go on the ground pin there, I think the blue wire we said, didn't we? Yeah. And then we've got our mains, which is on there to there. Right, so that's what our fault is. So you're not getting from the live from there round to that red wire there, which then basically powers up on the board there. That comes along, it goes into that diode. Right, I think that diode's bad. Let's try and test that. It's alright that way around. Yeah, we've got a bad diode. Yeah, that's what our problem is. That diode there's gone. It's just it's like a pretty standard rectifier diode. Let me see what I've got I can stick in there. I should have some of them right behind me, so just bear with me 1 second. Ooh, ow. Oh. Come on, diodes, where are diodes? Diodes. There we go. Something like that'll do. So let's take that diode out and put this new one in. Then usually it is that switch, that contact there. I can't recall actually seeing that diode before. I'm sure most of them have it on. It's the first time I've had to change it, if they do. Right, let's get him out of the circuit. Let's just make sure we remember which way around it is. Striped to that way, which is the anode connection. Go. There he is, looking rather corroded on that leg there actually. Oh yeah, the leg broke off in the on the board. Come on, out you come. There we go, he's out. Let's give that a little bit of a clean before we put it back together. Where's my PCB cleaner? And this is quite cool. My mother retired her old electric toothbrush, but before it went in the bin I grabbed it off her because I thought this is going to be ideal for situations like this. Can't quite get in there. I think this needs a new charge on the battery as well. That's going a bit weak. It's done a good job though. I think that's the reason she got a new one actually, is because the battery didn't last in it. We'll have to see if we can perhaps put a different battery in that and see if we can get it working again, because that'd be quite handy for cleaning bits of shmoo off PCBs. Right, let's put the new diode in. I think this is rated at like 50 volts or something, so it's well over what it needs to be for the radio. Right, it's like 1 amp 50 volts, this or something like that. There we go. Right, let's see if that's made a difference. Get them legs cut off. There we go. Right, let's do a quick test. We should now have continuity between there and there, which we didn't have before. Continuity between there and there. Oh no, I'm on the wrong way around. Oh, we're seeing the diode reading there rather than open circuit on the on there. That's okay. That's a switch. Now, which is the red one? The red one's the end, isn't it? Right, let's give that a try now. That should have fixed it, hopefully. We had a beep. We didn't have a beep before. We have power. Looks like we've got a working radio. Excellent. Right, let's get that board reinstated. Try and get that board back in. I don't know if the old diode had actually blown or the fact that the moisture made that leg so corroded it just wasn't carrying any voltage. It really, well, it just broke straight off when I tried desoldering it. So I'm wondering if that was what the issue was. It certainly was that diode anyway, and that's a new one on me. Well, you find something new every time you work on something, you know. Even if you worked on the same piece of equipment over and over again. It doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to have a stock fault. Sometimes you will come up with an anomaly. Oops. There we are. Get you back in there. That's it. Alright. And put that one back together. Let me get you out and up. You can kind of see what I'm doing. There we are. Right. Tighten that up. Right, there we go, one more of them to go in. I've got them ones to retighten at the back, and I think we're back together. Now, cosmetic wise on this, honestly it's not worth doing anything to. Because that back piece was broke. If it was just the back piece that was broken off, I'd wait till the donor set came in and tell him, you know, I'll give you a bell when a donor comes in, and I'll just put a new back on it off a scrap set. Because that part's broken as well that takes the handle, it's really not worth it. The radio can just basically play until it's had it. Now leave them screws in there. Yeah. You know, if that hadn't been broken off there, I would have done something with the case. I mean, I've even put a different hinge on the back there and made it work, but again, there's no point with having that broken off there. But it will carry on going like that. What he'll do what he's always done, or he's done since that got broke, and just stuck it on like that, stuck some good old gaffer tape down the sides, and carried on using it. Right, let's power it back up. Let's see if we can get it to scan and tuned in. There we go.
Drives in between them all. We love this. We've walked for miles, visited 5 national parks. Louise.
There we are.
Not all the bits, of course, and definitely not the ending. They
Works well
aren't
enough.
Needlessly good. Lived alongside the Mormons and Native Americans who live in these.
Switch off. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It'll do what he wants.
We are currently driving to Southern California.
It'll play his radio. So, yeah. Nice, quick, easy one, really. Nothing over the top to fix on them. But like I say, I have these seem to come in all the time. You know one bricklayer and they know someone that can repair their radios. They pass it around. Right, so I'm going to leave it there for now. Hope you enjoyed watching me get them back into working order. So hopefully we'll get back on with something vintage computer or vintage radio related soon. I'm still working on the house though. I've just finally got to the very last bits of doing that bathroom. Then I've got a landing and a bedroom and a kitchen and many other things to sort before I can get this place up on the market. Anyway, I'll say I hope you enjoyed watching me work on that. Thanks for watching and goodbye.